G'day everyone, hope you're doing super well. It's Taggy here. In this video, I'm going to share with you my top things that I'd love to see happen in Planet Coaster 2 as we move forward. And if you saw this week, we had some of our YouTube friends visiting Frontier's headquarters, having some great conversations with the developers. It really got me excited because, once again, this is evidence that Frontier listen and want to hear our community feedback. And one comment from Nerdchacho on Reddit really confirmed this. And so for me, I thought, hey, why don't I share some of my insights from all my tinkering and experimenting. I've got some, I guess, probably not as usual ideas as give me X ride or I want this type of roller coaster, but some things that really focus on guest interactions. And for me, that's what makes a park really feel alive. So dare to dream with me, come along for this one, and I'm really keen to hear what you think too. So we'll get stuck in. Okay guys, well, first one is art shapes. And if you didn't know, when it rains in this game, let's go put it on heavy rain, you'll notice that things start to get really nice and shiny. And it made me think, okay, couldn't we have art shapes that had different textures and would give us a whole heap of different options? And so, yeah, I was looking at that and starting to dream. So here's some spheres, but what could they look like? Well, first, what about, shiny glass, plastic, skin, scales, maybe feathers? I think fur would be a really interesting one as well, or metal. And obviously they need to be all colorable and we need to be able to change them all. But what I'd love as well is if the textures themselves could be scaled or be independent to the size of the shape. So a bit like the rocks, when you move those around, you'll see the textures sort of stay put, but the rock will be able to change its form and still look like a rock. And I was just thinking about the art shapes in general and everything that we have here. When we combine them, we can create some pretty stunning effects. So I've built my T-Rex and this giant teddy bear, all that sort of stuff, and even the really small little animatronics that I'm now working on. I'm finding that you can do quite a lot with these shapes. So it'd be nice, one, to have these textures, but also to be able to scale it even a little bit tinier, maybe, please. 1% would be great. But if that's not possible, just give me some textures. I think that would just open up so many possibilities. So yeah, that was number one on my wish list. Okay, moving on. This is probably, I think, the biggest potential game changer for Planet Coaster 2, and that is a whole range of invisible zones or blocks that would enable guest interaction. And so the idea here is that we could have something called a trigger zone. So when a guest sort of enters that area, it can activate a trigger or a sequencer. We could have an interact block, and with an edge where it indicates where the guest can come up to that area and then maybe touch it or press or use a push-pull sort of animation. Maybe they're grabbing at something. And that would enable us to make all sorts of cool sort of engaging interactions. And with animations combined with that and triggered, it would be very interesting. So midway games, that sort of thing. I saw a really good example where Jonty hid a store shelf, I think it was, inside a little grabby claw game, and it made the guests come up and look like they're pressing buttons. So something more official with some distinct animation types that we could, pick from a drop-down menu. Wouldn't that be cool? And that could be a whole range of different animations. I'm imagining, a water splash zone where people come up and shoot water pistols at each other and stuff like that. And then thirdly, a react zone. So again, with a direction to it, where you could have guests be scared or surprised. Maybe they stop and watch and laugh like the Vista points we used to have. But a react zone would just, again, add another level of interest as we create sort of pre-shows or whatever else we want to do in the theme park. So yeah, I think something like this that is generic and not predefined would be super awesome, because I want an engine where I can create my own, experiments and different engaging activities that aren't limited to something that's prefab. Now, you can have prefab things as well, of course. We had a good conversation about, DLCs and custom mods, can work in harmony. I think that was a really good point. It doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. So having the building blocks, something like this, would be really cool. Right, well, in the same vein here, I have lost count how many times people have asked me to make a railway crossing that actually works. And we can place barriers, but they don't respond to animation. Once they're placed, the pathfinding's set. And so what we need is a zone that we can sort of put down on our paths and say, this is a triggered exclusion zone. So when it's on, guests can't walk through it, and when it's off, they can. So something like that would enable, train crossings that could be triggered by a ride, or like a drawbridge. So that could be triggered based on an animation step or something like that. But yeah, I think this would open up a lot of possibilities. And I just thought that would be the simplest way to do it. Just create a zone, say it's triggerable, and let us do the rest. I know pathfinding is going to be difficult in a scenario like that, but hey, the Frontier devs are amazing. I'm sure they can do it. And in the same vein, what about a one-way traffic pathway? Someone's asked me that several times, and we can't really achieve that at the moment. So one-way path might make some really interesting flows in our theme parks. Another thing I would love to see is the ability to climb. I have actually hacked this with store shelves up up in the air, and then people sort of float up. Not a great look. I want a proper climb where guests will go up a ladder. And again, I want it invisible so we can decorate our own scenery, maybe a default ladder or something, but then we can turn it off. And having some variety in the angles. And then finally, a crawl space where we can define where guests have to crawl through, maybe going through tunnels. So you can imagine a playground with ladders and steps and little pipes that they crawl through. And then coming back here, there'll be some interactive blocks where they can touch things and play with little water pistols or who knows what. But just the concept of the building blocks to build those sort of play environments would be so cool. I hope we can get something like that. And last but absolutely not least is this idea. I've already communicated in another video on how I would love to see animatronics improved. And number one, invisible, scalable, moving platforms that would allow us to do really intricate animations within a small body mesh, like a humanoid figure or an arm or an elbow, something like that. The ability to turn them off and make them invisible would be amazing. And then secondly, we need to be able to keyframe our animations. So that means setting a start and finish point and allowing it to stay where we put it, not always returning back in those sort of baked animation ways that we currently have. My fingers are crossed. I don't know. I saw some changes in some of the screenshots for the new update, and I'm just wondering if they're going to actually action this. But if we can get keyframe animation, it will be an absolute game changer in how easy it will be to make our own sort of interactive objects. I'd love to see the sequencer be able to be attached to something like a moving platform. At the moment, you can't do that. And the reason I want that is so we can have them move out the way and then sort of have random guest interactions. So I can go up to it and click it. Maybe it moves out the way and another one pops up. So we can have some sort of logic built into, when you click a sequencer. And on the idea of logic, wouldn't it be nice if we can have some sort of conditional if statement within the sequencer itself? So love to be able to set in here a condition that says, when a guest has hit one of those trigger points that they've walked into, do something. Or maybe when they've touched a certain block from before, do something. And so that conditional logic would just, we'd be able to create our own little complete unique interactions through like those pre-show sort of elements you get in a ride and the cues and things like that. Just, wow, we could do so much. And the ability obviously to animate other things besides just the position of the moving platform, but things like opacity and scale, all sorts of cool ideas would come along with that. Hey, so there you go. There is my not so small wish list, but Frontier, if you are listening, thank you so much for an amazing game and all that you're doing. And if you're got some ideas yourselves about what we could be doing in this sort of vein, I know a lot of people want new rides and roller coasters and whatnot. That's all cool, but for me, this is what will make this game truly unique and something quite special when you get the creative community. And believe me, I've seen some amazing rides and interactions and animations done by the community. They are really phenomenal. Just as an example, Johan showed me his park and all the little cool interactions he's built into some of his sort of areas, just using what we've got already. And when we combine it with this sort of interactivity, it would just be absolutely next level. So I'm looking forward to, the update path, whatever it might bring. I don't mean to demand this by any means, but I would love to see it. So yeah, let me know in the comments. Thanks for sticking on this one, and I'll see you on the next tutorial or video as they come. Cheers, guys.